Books, books. I like books. I'm gonna read them all. Hi readers, Chris here. Welcome to my channel where I review fantasy, Stephen King, all sorts of books. In the honor of Easter today, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite book rabbits or book bunnies. Any book or rabbit creature that has appeared in any book, I'm going to give you my top 10 favorite today in honor of Easter. I was in the mood to do something a little bit different today, so whether you celebrate or not, hopefully you will find this entertaining. So let's jump in with number 10, and that's going to be the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, aka Alice Through the Looking Glass. I think most of us are familiar with this rabbit, but basically, young girl falls asleep under a tree, rabbit runs by saying he's late, Alice runs after him, and she ends up going on this crazy adventure. Now, when I think about it, I'm like, if that rabbit could have taken like 2 seconds, maybe just to stop and talk to Alice, maybe she wouldn't have had so many issues, but that's okay. He's a rabbit. What are you gonna do? For my 9th pick, I think most people are familiar with Peter Rabbit. Peter Rabbit being the star of a very popular series of children's books, but I actually prefer Benjamin Bunny. So number 9 is Benjamin Bunny. Benjamin is Peter's cousin, I believe, and I feel like Benjamin has a little bit more sass to him. He's not quite as, I feel like Peter Rabbit is a little bit more proper, and I think Benjamin Bunny is a little bit more fun. I don't know why. I just know that when I was a kid growing up, I have a whole collection of these books, and for some reason, I always liked Benjamin Bunny better for some reason. Maybe it's just the name, Benjamin Bunny. I think that rolls off the tongue better than Peter Rabbit, so that's why I prefer him. Number 8 is going to be Bunnicula. Oh yes, a bunny Dracula, basically. Again, Bunnicula comes from a series of children's books about this family who finds a bunny when they go to the theater to see Dracula. They bring this bunny home with them, and for some reason, this bunny, eats vegetables in not a normal way. So, fangs, he sucks the juice out of the vegetables. And of course, while this is going on, this family also has a cat in the house, Hester, I believe his name was, and Hester is always trying to kill the bunny, but of course, the bunny lives on. The bunny lives on. I think the series is so cute and so funny, and honestly, this bunny reminds me of the bunny, if you're familiar with Monty Python and the Holy Grail, he had big pointy teeth. Anyway, Bunnicula is a classic. If you haven't read it yet, it's so cute and it's so much fun. Number 7 is going to be Basil Stag from the Redwall series. First of all, if you're not familiar with this series, again, it's a young adult / middle grade series where you have all these animals, and there are a ton of rabbits in this series. There are a ton. But the most well-known is probably Basil Stag because he appears in the earlier books. He's basically a comrade at arms to the main characters in the story, who's a little warrior mouse. Basil is kind of like an older rabbit in this series, so he's seen a lot, he's done a lot, he's been a soldier for a long time, he's an expert in camouflage, he has all these really cool skills for an older bunny, so he's a great ally for the little mice in their adventures in this series. He also has this thing about deer, stags, so he really is obsessed with them, and so that's why he chose the middle name Stag. He didn't come with that, he chose it, Basil Stag so I think that's kind of funny. This is another series that if you haven't read it yet, I would definitely recommend. I've only read the first couple, but I am planning on doing a reread. I might start it this year, later in the year, because I think I have almost every book in this series now, and there's a lot to get through, so it's gonna take me a while whenever I decide to start that. Number 5 is going to be a Fiver from Watership Down. First of all, if you're not familiar with Watership Down, Don't watch the animated movie from, was it the 70s, 80s? Because I watched that movie when I was 5 or 6, and it totally traumatized me because my parents thought that it was this cute animated movie. And there's like bunnies killing each other and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Even though it looks like it might be for kids, it's not. There are a lot of great rabbit characters in this book. I think Hazel is usually the most popular one that people talk about, but I like Fiver. I think he's littler, he's cuter, and he also may or may not have the ability to see the future. He kind of has this like sixth sense, you know, this spider sense where he can sense when things are happening. So I think that makes him a really cool character. So that's why I put him on my list. Next up, I have Hester from His Dark Materials. Now, you could argue that Hester is not technically a bunny because in this world, everyone has a animal companion because their souls are external to their bodies. So in our world where we live, our souls are internal, but in the world that this takes place in, everyone has a soul that is external, and it usually takes the form of a specific animal. And Hester, the rabbit, is the soul of this character called Lee Scoresby. But I think Hester is cool on her own because these souls that people have, like they talk to each other, they communicate with each other. It's a whole thing. I don't want to get into it, but I put Hester on my list because she's a cool rabbit. Lee Scoresby is a cool character, and it's my list, and I can do what I want. Number 7 is going to be Rabbit from Winnie the Pooh. I love Rabbit. When I was younger, I feel like Rabbit was not my favorite Winnie the Pooh character. It was usually Tigger because he's so high energy, and also Kanga and Roo. But now that I'm older, I actually like Rabbit and appreciate Rabbit a lot better because Rabbit just kind of wants to be left alone. He kind of thinks that the other family, the other animals in the 100 Acre Wood are annoying, and I kind of agree with him. All he wants to do is just be left alone and grow his carrots, and someone is always bothering him. So, Rabbit, now that I'm older, I appreciate you so much more. Number 8 is going to be Aster Bunnymund, aka Bunnymund, from the Guardians of Childhood series, or you may recognize him from the Rise of the Guardians, which is the movie that was based on that series. But he is the Easter Bunny. So, but in this series, like in this world and in the movie that it was based on, he's kind of like, he's not what you think of when you think of an Easter Bunny. When you think of an Easter Bunny, you think of, you know, the white fur, cute button nose, like really happy-go-lucky, and Bunnymund is kind of a more military-ish rabbit, to say the least. He's kind of closer to like Rabbit is in Winnie the Pooh, where he's a little more gruff, he's a little bit more he's got a little bit of an attitude, but he's really good at his job. He's really good at making sure all the children get their eggs, getting the eggs made, getting them out there. And I think he's a really fun character. And honestly, the movie version where he's voiced by Hugh Jackman, I think is absolutely fantastic and so much fun. If you have not seen Rise of the Guardians, that is an amazing movie, and I definitely recommend it. Number 9 is going to be Buttermilk Bunny from the Serendipity book series. This is a series of children's books that came out in the 80s. I know I have some of them somewhere. I'm going to have to find them at some point. But they feature all different types of animals, and my favorite was always the bunny, Buttermilk Bunny. So Buttermilk Bunny, again, in these kids' books, she's just a cute little bunny. She's a sweet bunny. She has a great family. She makes friends with other animals, even in the forest. There's even a story where she makes friends with a bear, and they try to make it seem like, oh, bunnies and bears can't be friends, but because Buttermilk is so sweet and such a wonderful bunny, of course she makes friends with the bear. I absolutely love these books. They are so nostalgic for me, have such a special place in my heart. I'm not sure if they make these books anymore, but if they do and you have young children, I would definitely recommend checking them out. And finally, that brings me to the end, the last bunny on my list, which is going to be the Velveteen Rabbit. Again, this is a classic children's book, but if you're not familiar with it, it's basically about a toy rabbit, a plush rabbit, that is trying to be a real rabbit. Think about kind of like a Pinocchio type situation. However, in this story, the little boy that the rabbit is the toy of, is very, very sick. So the Velveteen Rabbit is trying to use the love of this child to become a real rabbit. If you're not familiar with this story, I'm not going to say what happens or where it goes. But let's just say this one is a bit of a tearjerker. It is a bit of a tearjerker, but it's a really sweet story. It's an amazing story, and I was obsessed with this when I was a child. Like, I wanted a Velveteen Rabbit. I wanted all my stuffed animals to come to life. I thought that they would one day if I loved them enough, but the Velveteen Rabbit is a classic tale, and if you have children in your life, this is another one that I would definitely recommend. There you have it. Those are my 10 favorite rabbit/bunny characters in books. So now I want to know from you, do you have a favorite rabbit or a bunny character? Is it something I mentioned? Is it something I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff coming your way soon. And for everyone who is celebrating, hope you have a happy Easter.